Pero wala ka sa gawa, Daldal King. Ina mo, Marvin, matulog ka na. May buhos pa kayo bukas. Huwag ka na manggulo dito. Bastos ka, wala kang respeto. Pare, respeto lang ang hanap ko. Pare, binastos mo ko sa stream ko.
That's the advantage of this setup from the black side. Black has that pawn in the center, and it really is just a reverse Sicilian. And it's a good dragon for white, but a good dragon may still be a bad dragon in some cases.
No such thing as a good dragon.
Oh yeah, maybe a bit of an oxymoron there, and this position, but it's pretty standard, right, David? I mean, I'm sure you've played this kind of position as well yourself.
Yeah, plenty of times, and it goes back to something we've been talking about throughout the week. It's often players just
Matik yan, pare. Balda talaga yan, pare.
Magnus, as you say there, Simon, is losing a bit of time with black. You also start with black, so you start tempi down, but despite the fact it's kind of transposing into a Sicilian type of structure, Magnus is still happy. He doesn't mind losing 2 or 3
Pare, focus lang, pare.
As long as he gets a position that he's very comfortable in. And we see
pare,
already
pakakulang ka pa sa balita. Malapit na mag 1-1.
Getting Wesley thinking at this early stage. I must admit, I'm skeptical. I like White's chances here. It just feels like you're leading in development, but yeah, there must be something.
I was going to say, I made the there's no such thing as a good dragon joke as someone who's lost too many games on the black side.
Tingnan pare, tatlo kami nakagat to. Wow, what a move.
This position is super solid, because let's remember that the thing that makes the dragon bad is the Yugoslav attack, right? It's the very dangerous, well-prepared pawn structure that blows black off the board. This position is actually a very fun one to play. You've got the bishop, kind of like the Catalan bishop, David. You've got a rook coming to c1. We'll just draw some arrows, use our coloring board here, because I think, yeah, the bishop develops, you have the other bishop, you have the rook on c1. These positions are so easy and fun to play for white, so I'm also skeptical. I like it as a potential rebound game for Wesley, which he desperately needs, so I think he's off to a good start.
Off to a good start, you say that, but he's just burnt about 2 minutes on the clock. Once again, we see Magnus taking the lead on the clock there after this last move by Magnus. Wesley taking a big think here. This last little pawn move, David, is this something that's new, unfamiliar territory? What's going on?
Yeah, I must admit that to me, in this position, if we just backtrack a couple of moves, I've always played this move knight back to b6. It just feels like you're getting out the way. Also, a very popular move has been developed recently, bringing the bishop out. And knight to f6, as Simon said, is trendy. And here, I'm just familiar with bringing the bishop out. I think maybe, again, he's just trying to get Wesley out of preparation. h6, it's a waiting move. It's a useful move. If, for example, white pushes a pawn forward, it takes away this square from white's bishop. But yeah, it feels like Magnus just playing mind games here. And we should mention to the viewers, okay, a couple more moves have been played, that the dragon is signified by this bishop coming out to g2. And just to show the idea, we call it a reverse Sicilian, because essentially, let's backtrack the whole way very quickly here. Essentially, the dragon, or a very similar, let's go for the accelerated dragon here, a very similar position.
Accelerated Dragon of the Philippines, pare.
Where here, after bishop to g7, white could, for example, bring the knight back, and we would see something very similar to the game, just with reverse colors. So white is essentially upper tempo, and one move in chess, very important. So it's always signified by this bishop on the long diagonal and this pawn structure.
And how tricky is that, Danny, to face these reverse openings? Because you're familiar with the main line, but with that one move difference, one move advantage, how does that change the dynamics?
It can change it a lot, and it can also... Well, there's two things, right? Sometimes it can literally change the concrete nature of the position, and so you do have to double check your lines. You have to calculate things to make sure you're not walking into a blunder. But the other thing it can do is change how people feel about it, which is what we're seeing. It psychologically affects them to the point where they're using maybe 3 unnecessary minutes, right? Wesley down on the clock again. So I wanna again just call out that while I do like Wesley's position, I think he has a good chance to rebound and maybe level this thing, at least as far as the first few moves. I still just, you have to applaud Magnus Carlsen. It reminds me of what Fabio Caruana said about him, which is again,
lagi yan lang, ang bilis tumira ni Magnus, pare. Laging ganun nagalawan niya. Binabawi niya sa endgame.
Playing moves that you highlighted yourself, David, even in a trendy line with knight f6 that you've never seen. h6, the bishop goes to d6 instead of e7. This is not a typical structure for how black plays these reverse dragons, yet he's in a playable position, and guess what? He made his opponent burn 3.5 minutes on the clock. So this is the kind of stuff he does in rapid chess, and it often pays off.
I mean, I think that's a good point of making things look easy. I mean, you get this not just in chess, but the best footballers, the best musicians, the best anything. They make something look really simple, sound simple, but in actual fact, that's a skill of someone who's an expert.
Hari talaga ng endgame, oh, pare. Parang nakikita ko sarili ko dyan.
And that's what Magnus does do by playing actually quite quite strange moves. I mean, I think if this is also, I think something that's if this was played.
Pag ito, nanalo pa si Magnus dito, pare. Tulugan talaga to.
Years ago, you'd probably guess that the player of black was quite a weak player because it looks quite clumsy. You know, as David said, black's knight has gone to a square it doesn't normally go to. The pawn
Tulugan talaga to, par. Pag nanalo si Magnus dito.
The queen, what's it doing there? They're quite weird moves. There goes another pawn move, and it's kind of this is a modern, very modern way of facing White's position here, and I do like White as well. I mean,
Ano opening nila? Ano, White yung nauna, pare.
More than a small advantage, but he's got a better pawn structure. Like you get in the Sicilian, he's developed.
Kailangan na siguro mag-train ni Wesley kasama ka, pare. Tingin ko rin eh. Sa
Right? You would rather that happen
Thanks for
than...
that bleep, Danny.
I don't know.
Friendly show
I meant your
there.
teeth. Sometimes I bleep out my teeth. The point is, this is really tough, and Wesley really has to just focus on the moment, one game at a time. The guys who
North
live in the
Korea
top end of the
opening.
world have short-term memory loss by design. They're all there because they have the ability to focus in the moment. I believe Wesley can do it, but he has to speed up a little bit.
Good night, par. Thank you so much, Justin.
Goldfish memory right now is what Wesley needs. David, what do you think about this last move by Wesley with the knight jumping forward?
Yeah, Tanya, I think you've called it back to the chess at the perfect moment because there's a positional threat on the board. And again, we can draw on that pool of knowledge we have from other openings here, the Sicilian. And in the Sicilian with reverse colors, we talk about an exchange sacrifice. And it's a very thematic one. Here, rook takes knight. You're giving up material. You're giving up a rook 5 for the knight, 3 points there. But you're shattering black's pawn structure. And let's say black plays a silly move, puts the king on h8. I think Wesley would just go for this without too much thought. You break the black structure. Look at how weak these will be long term. And also, there might be another pawn up for grabs in the center. And if you can get away with
Malakas si Wesley, pare. Sayang eh, no?
black's position.
Ngayon lagi ko sinasabi eh. Hindi naalagaan kasi ng gobyerno eh.
At least this pawn is weak long term. White's knight is going to get a nice square. And I think if this works tactically, then this is something that Magnus is really concerned
Kaya ang
about
gusto
right
ko
now.
talaga, pare. Sana masuportahan nyo ako sa gusto kong gawin. Papatournament talaga ako ng maraming standard para dumami yung yung mga master sa Pilipinas or kahit grandmaster kung suswertein.
You must know your plans in the middle game, and again, this is a perfect example. David straight away knowing this exchange.
Marunong din po ako mag-chess. O siya, mag-follow ka, pare. Labanan mo minsan.
In the Sicilian is moving that knight to c5. And you get this the other way around when you're playing Sicilian, but that is a key square. And this maneuver of the knight, if you didn't know about it beforehand, you might not recognize it. But when the white knight gets there, it causes so many problems to black's queen side and just generally to black's position. And I would say that's equally as scary, that move. I mean, very simple move, just improve.
Ako, hindi pa ako natatalo sa tournament, pare. Legit, wala pa akong talo sa tournament.
If I was black here, I'd be very concerned because there's a lot of positional threats brewing.
Ayun na, nakalabas si Rook ni pare.
We're looking at now the clocks get even, the more you're starting to see what we were talking about earlier come to fruition, right? We applaud him.
Ikaw na ba magtatatag ng coffee chess sa Pilipinas? Pare, kung kaya ko lang talaga, men eh.
By avoiding the main line.
Kung meron lang talaga support na makukuha eh.
Said the whole time that we like
Hindi, ang masabi ko lang, pare, hindi ko kaya gawin lahat.
dragon structure reverse because the thing that kills the dragon is the Yugoslav attack, checkmate pawn storm. You don't know.
Pero mo, konti ng streamer ng chess. Kaya everyday ako nagla-live ng
This is
chess.
not a Yugoslav attack, which means white's
Kasi pag daw nag-live ng chess ngayong araw, wala nag-live ng chess ngayong araw. Kawawa naman yung chess industry, pare.
Wesley's in a really great spot to rebound here, and again, that would be the drama we want.
Yung stars dyan, dito, pare,
It's the drama we get.
makakatulong yan sa ano eh. Pag nag-start na ako ng standard tournament, ang mahal kasi men, venue pa lang. Bayad pa lang sa arbiter, pare. Ito real talk, pare ha. Halos aabutin ng 200,000 na. Ay naman, saan ko pupulutin yun? Ha? Paano ako susuportahan yung iba kung di ko masuportahan yung sarili kong live, pare?
And that exchange sacrifice also might still be on the cards. Two very tempting options here for Wesley. So, and the one he chooses, will that make his ambition clear?
Pag nanalo ko, susuporta ka na. Nagtatagalog si Magnus, pare.
Can get away with sacrificing his rook on this square. He will love that. But the problem is maybe
Ba't nag-sacrifice yun?
yes, your knight can jump out of the way with a double attack. But once the queen moves, do you have enough? You have sacrificed a rook for just a knight and pawn, and at least this time black's pawns are still alive. I'm struggling to see a knockout blow here. It does feel a bit shaky, black's queen lacking squares, but maybe it's clinging on. And the other idea, Simon, you mentioned in this position, knight to c5. I think that's the more tempting of the two right now, but it's all about whether maybe in this position black has something. I don't see it right now. Do
Wala
you
ko
push this
sinancrifice
pawn?
eh.
Do you maybe try and trade off this beautiful dragon bishop?
Pag natalo ako dinaya, maangas na to ah.
Right now.
I think pushing the pawn might be the key because you can't take f6. Oh, okay. I thought you can't take f6 because
Wala rin akong kilala sa gobyerno pare.
Right. Okay, so that was right.
Wala akong
But
ganyang
I guess you could
kapangyarihan
just
pare.
take e4. No.
Kung meron lang, matagal ko na nilapit eh.
In this position, for example, you come back and something like this, it looks
Dude, sabi ni Coach, nagbubulalo pa daw si Wesley. Si Coach talaga napakasinungaling. Naka-live din ba si Coach?
Instead, trying to trade off one of those beautiful
Ano ba si
bishops
Coach,
on
pare?
G2. And yeah, sacrifices here. He's backing this up with tactics. Is this pawn hanging? This is the big mystery right now.
Hmm?
You've got to show that the dangers that exist if white does get greedy in this position.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out those
I was gonna
dangers.
say,
Hindi siya
I'm
naka-live
super
eh.
surprised to see bishop h3 because I can't make sense of this position, but it looks like 95 in the end. There's a capture on
naka-live pala siya.
g2 and a check on d5. That's it, right? Okay, yeah. So rook e5. We'll just show it. Trade, bishop g2, and then queen d5. Okay, so that's the tactic.
Double attack at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and taking with the
Para
bishop.
kamusta daw sabi ng tropa kong isang taon ng beginner na ikaw ang idolo.
Tactic here. Maybe it's just B6.
Sabi mo sa kanya, mag-quit na siya pare.
Same tactic as Danny
Ha?
showed.
Magugas na lang siya ng
I was gonna
plato.
say this is why he's the world champion. He's not, but he kind of is the best player. I mean, he spots these just little tactics to get out of trouble. I mean, I think the first world champion I can remember he did this very regularly was Aliekin, Alekine. He used this tactic, and you want to do these positional things on the board, and you have to use tactics to sometimes get your positional desires on the board, and this is a perfect example of that. I probably wouldn't have seen bishop h3. I probably would have just been, I lose a pawn here, and I would have gone very passive. Had I seen the tactics, I'd love to play this.
We know
Get
who's
rid
gonna
of
win.
White's great bishop,
Magnus, pare.
open up the rook, and it's
Sure
the
win
little
Magnus.
things
Tingnan mo
which
upuan ni
makes it
Magnus,
the game,
pare.
right? And that is a nice tactic.
Ang angasan eh.
So easy to miss as well, right? Really easy to miss.
Magnus with his incredible ability to
Incredible.
piece up all the minute details in the position, strategic ideas with a tactical offense on the board to keep pieces defended makes him one of the greatest players of all times. And I want our body language expert to step in right now. Magnus with folded arms, what does that tell us about what's going on the board?
Well, generally, when you lean back in life, I'm assuming I'm still the body expert. When you lean back and you like relax a little bit, and you know your arms they're not crossed, that'd be a bit too defensive. He's just covering his face like this, very relaxed. Look at that, head to the side. Especially when you go to the right-hand side, you're recalling the good moments in your life. And when you have the pineapple hair as well, it gives you that radar to pick up certain positive thoughts.
I'm really glad
on the
you brought
way.
that up because we have not talked nearly enough about Magnus's hair. Can we just can we talk about that for a second?
I think we can, Danny. I mean, it just reminds me of a cool pineapple.
O parang kay Wesley tayo, parang Pinoy tayo pare.
It's cool, right? I mean, I like it. I like the long hair. What do you reckon, Dave?
No comment on the hair.
No comment. Okay.
Hair quality, but the hair quality today is.
Wow, well, no one can talk
Wow.
about Magnus's hair, but I want to get back to the position because the pawn on e5 has been taken and it feels like LPDO.
Wesley, kainin mo to, libre oh.
So many tactics. What's
Inatake to,
going on
o di kainin mo to.
Sacrifice. One word for Wesley So right now. He's given up material. Yes, he grabbed a pawn, but he's actually the one going down in a minute because White's rook and White's bishop in the center both attacked simultaneously. He has to give up some material now. It's just how to do it.
Nice. Nakikinig ka rin pala eh.
While we were distracted when he went for it. Now he does choose to sack the exchange by bishop c7. He could have also played rook takes c6.
Kaya pa to, lamang na si Wesley pare. Lamang sa sama ng loob.
Exchange sacrifice we were talking about earlier. I don't know if we want to analyze that because I'm curious why he went for that instead of rook takes c6. There's a fork, as David is highlighting. But if you take, whether you take or even keep the dark square bishop, I felt like this was a little more of the traditional type of exchange stack you can see, meaning back up the bishop on the diagonal. At the same time, I mean, the eval says for a reason black would have a small edge, but these positions are full of long-term
Kaya pa to
compensation.
pare.
I'm just...
Lagay mo dito yung queen mo, dito pare, bang. Tapos check ka dito, bang. Libre ka na ng po, kakainin mo pa yung wala.
Maybe he's banking on the fact that, kind of opposed to that previous variation, at least he's got a pass pawn that can start running.
Yeah, that's fair. And the d6 square is available for the bishop with a knight long term.
Magnus doesn't go for it.
Kaya ni
Instead, he
Wesley
hits
yan
the
pare.
bishop on c7.
Yeah, just,
Balik, pare,
keeping
balik
this
mo, huwag ka
bishop
na mag-isip.
out, No matter where the bishop
Dito.
retreats, I think next move he'll potentially go for it. Unless he keeps kind of playing tickle with this bishop and kind of keeps attacking it with his rook or his queen. Interesting
But Wesley
move.
could sack the exchange now.
Yeah, you can take this piece.
And then
just
bishop
drop back.
f4.
Anyone's game.
Anyone's game, and that's what Wesley needs, right? I mean, he has to win. He has to win one of these 3 games. I mean, so he's got to take risks. Before the show, we were saying Wesley's a bit averse to taking risks, and I think in this game he's doing the right thing, right? I mean, he's being brave. Got to be brave. But it's weird. He's being brave and he was shaking his head.
I wondered if he was shaking his head in hindsight
Dito Wesley lagi.
based on the movie.
Yan.
The fact that he took so much
Makinig
time
ka
to
rin.
do it. Because he's still down 4 minutes on the clock, and sometimes a player is shaking their head, and we think it's because of the last move, and they're like, "Yo, bro, you got to move faster." Just like wake up.
Wala,
you know,
talo
shaking
si
their
Wesley
heads.
first game,
I
pare.
don't know. I mean, I think the position is objectively playable. I love the pass deep on. As you
Namumutol
highlighted.
nga eh.
There's compensation here for Wesley.
I think it's a lovely position for White. I mean, I know the evaluation bar says equal, but again, if we just forget about the evaluation bar or even just bear it in mind and think, who's got the easier moves to play? This is such a big question in chess. Is it me or is it my opponent? Is it White? Is it Black? Well, White pushes Derek. Pushes Derek the deep pawn all the way.
Is it
all the way
Derek? Is
to
it
end.
Derek? It's not Daryl. It's not
Danny.
Doug or Danny.
Yeah, David.
Got my own name. David.
Today it can be Derek, but on other days we will go David or Daniel if you want.
No, I mean,
Challenge ko kaya si Magnus no para mag-lag yung PC niya. Mabagal ang PC nito, Pentium 3 lang daw gamit ito.
I agree. I think that even with Magnus's
Challenge
great prep in the last game, ultimately what happened, Wesley held, and then he blundered because he almost
Ang
ran out of
pangalan niya,
time.
no, Magnus.
In this game, he's got a good position, but he's down almost 4 minutes on the clock. So it's rapid for a reason.
Let's do the math here. Black has got an extra rook and white, which is worth 5 points. White has got a minor piece for 3 points and 2 pawns. So it's sort of an imbalance, but still balanced in a way. We see the bar somewhat leveled, and I want to get
Follow
your
natin yung
opinion.
pare.
Would you like this position? Would you like to play this position?
Ba't hindi ko siya ma-watch?
Or white?
Are we voting?
Yes, we are.
Okay, everyone write down your answers. No, I'm kidding.
I think everyone's just going to say White.
I would rather play white.
I think it's you can't say Black in this position. It's
Okay,
just
sa messenger.
I think, I think it's 50-50 eval by the engine for a reason. I mean, let's let David speak for himself.
White.
Okay, we all want white.
White.
But Tony, maybe you want black.
69 stars galing kay Sherwin Castillo, pang paswerte kay GM Wesley. So yan, paring salamat.
Who is playing black?
Thanks so much,
I get it.
Sherwin
It
Castillo, man.
feels
Maraming
like
salamat
you've
sa'yo,
got
pare.
easier play, a clear plan ahead, and in these time formats, it's all about how easy it is that you can make fast moves in the position. The plan that you've been highlighting with the deep pawn moving forward makes so much sense right now.
Tingnan mo, pare, takot na takot na si Wesley.
To really
Hala.
build an attack against White's king, so many
Oo.
trades have happened. It looks like Wesley's the one who's got that slight edge.
Sobrang
right
natakot
now.
si Wesley.
With the clock sticking low. It's a game for all 3 results, and maybe draw
I
is the
agree.
least likely of them.
It is a game for all 3 results.
Kaya
You
Wesley,
highlight
kahit
the clock,
itabla mo
the
lang,
17
pare.
piece,
Kahit
and of
itabla
course
mo
the
lang,
draft
kaya
story
pa
in
yan.
5 minutes here soon. But I want to highlight for those who might prefer the rook so that they don't feel bad out there, even if we all chose it. I think there's a reason you could do that because, look, objectively, the
Nakagata
rook
ka
only
dila.
has a value of 5 versus 3 for the minor pieces for a reason because as the board opens up, the rooks have more pure power, right? They can control more squares.
Salamat,
And at
Adonis,
some
pare.
point, if white
Salamat,
isn't accurate,
nakakaintindi
when
ka
the
ng
time
ano.
scramble ensues,
Di ka
those
tulad
rooks
nung
are
iba na
gonna get
iyakin.
right?
Ang
The
bobo mo
open
mag-chess.
files will
Hindi mo
be
tumigil ka
available.
na.
Was that a mistake by Wesley? Sorry, Danny.
Yeah,
Tatandaan nyo na,
okay.
parang hirap nyong biruin.
Anyway, so it's the rooks are there for a reason. I think Wesley just wants to really protect c5 with d4 next.
Yeah, and at first thought, I
Tatay lang ako nung
White's
natapos.
bishop is lacking squares. Maybe it's something to do with that the evaluation bar reacted there. But White's bishop does have a nice outpost, a nice perch to sit on
Hindi,
d6.
kaya to ni Wesley, men. Ang alam ko, laging kontra si Wesley kay, ano, eh, kay Magnus, pare. Kakaiba nga yan eh. Parang kahinaan ni, ano, eh. Kahinaan ni Magnus si Wesley, pare.
He's struggling to come up with a plan as black.
I think I saw it.
Okay,
I see it.
bring it, Danny.
I think it's g5 for black.
Let's jump in
And
and
then
show
when it
this.
goes to d6, you can play b6.
Okay.
And undermine the bishop's protection. I have no
O,
idea.
kaya natira ni, ano, ni...
But I'm like, why did the engine? Okay, I'm wrong. I thought this was maybe the idea. Like, what is the unique reason why e3 suddenly gives black an edge? It turns out that the computer thinks this is fine. I guess white could just play d4. Okay, I'm wrong. I was just guessing. Okay, trying to figure out. But 97 instead doesn't do any better.
Yeah, maybe the idea is now this pawn is attacked, and for example, if I just defend it, your same idea, Danny, maybe. But firstly, do we push the pawn, and then evaluation bar says
Oo,
no.
kaya yan, kaya
This
pare.
bishop is running out of squares. Maybe you go the other way. The other natural move here would be to plant the knight in the center.
Siya nako, par.
Yeah, still a bit loose. And
Ganun,
suddenly, if you
sumasagot ka
look
pa
at White's
kasi.
position, it's all about the dark squares. Pawn chain here on the dark squares. Maybe the light squares just slightly tender.
I'm changing my mind, guys. I think I might go with black.
It's still tense, though. I've got to say, to a human, it's not obvious at all.
No, maybe it's just in the balance. I mean, the computer's always right, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, I was just assuming White's position is so much easier to play. But now that knight's getting a bit funky, and it is getting a little bit funky, isn't it? It's dancing around, creating some problems. It's not clear at all. And this move, okay, well, you attack the queen. You might try to reroute the knight to b3 over to the queen side. Kind of makes some sense to do this. So an ideal square for that knight could be like a5 in some
Naubusan
situations.
ng pera
C4,
ng
D6
oras
would
si
be
Magnus, pare.
lovely,
Maganda tong
but
balita.
Black gets some moves as well. And how do you defend c5 now? The bishop comes in. You stop knight f5. Yeah, it's very, very tense, isn't it?
Yeah, but that b6
Really
idea.
Kainin mo,
then
pare.
Ball there,
I was
Danny.
coming
Par,
back to
kainin
it.
mo,
and
par,
I think
promise.
Yeah, it's a nice idea.
And
Eh, pag kinain niya yan, pare, mas madali niya mapapagpa...
Yeah,
Ito.
wait.
Whoa, what just happened? Look at that last move that Magnus just played.
Yeah, temporary piece sacrifice. Magnus gave up the black knight, but just by capturing pawns, he was attacking there just temporarily White's knight and White's bishop at the same time, and White couldn't save them both. And here we see still the same material imbalance, knight and 2 pawns for a rook, but Danny called it.
Dito.
The lines have opened up,
West life
position
dito.
is exploding, and for rooks, that is a
Mali.
good sign. White's knight looks nice and pretty in the center, but Black's rooks have access.
Patay, napagpatong na.
Wesley didn't have to part
Dito mo
ways
lagay
with
yung
the
king mo,
bishop.
pare.
Let's
Angat mo
back
dito.
up. Like,
Huwag ka na mag-isip.
you
Paubos
could've
na oras mo.
moved
Dito.
the bishop and given up
Para
the
pag
knight,
chinek ka,
where that's
pare.
what the computer
Wow,
wanted
niloading.
to do instead of bishop takes c5 after the temporary piece sacrifice. It's
go
kind
back
of
here.
funny because there was something to this position that
Maybe it's not possible to save this bishop. It's
Maybe
just
it's
really
not.
clever by Magnus. He forced White to give up this piece rather than the knight. Here you want a bishop maybe in the center, for example, because pawns are on both sides of the board, the bishop with a long range. But you can't save this piece anyway, so he thought he had to give it up for the pawn. And yeah, let's just check out this position. Magnus is giving up a third pawn. Okay, it's just been captured. He's going for checkmate. He's going to try and break through on the back rank.
I like it. And also that h-pawn, I mean, it's very natural to use the h-pawn in
Patay
these
ka.
positions
Check
where
pala.
White has moved to the dark squares, fianchetto,
Check
but
pala,
lost
pare.
the
Patay
fianchetto
kang
bishop.
Magnus.
That is often a
Wesley
very
ka,
good way
pare.
to attack. And heating up, though, because obviously White's a pawn up, right? White has the extra pawn. That white knight, beautiful
Lagay mo
piece.
dito. Angat
I
mo
guess,
to,
I mean,
bang.
you can't move it. It seems
Angat,
like a nice
tapos
piece, but I'm
pasok
also
ka
thinking,
dito
you
ng
know,
king.
maybe you
Lagay
need
mo
that
sa
to come back
dulo
to
yung
defend
rook
in some
para pag
cases.
pumunta
I've
kainin
gotta ask,
mo,
what is the
hindi ka
answer to
check.
this? It looks terrifying here for Wesley. So suddenly
Huwag
his
mong
rook is
kakainin.
going to be traded and his king's going to be naked, just forced around the board maybe.
And it's on the board. We're going to find out. Maybe that knight you mentioned has to jump back to take control of that back rank C1 square. Knight E2, but that runs into a nasty check, David.
Yeah, you're right.
Best of
Let's
5 ba?
check
Hindi.
Tanya in the corner.
Unang mga 2.5 points lang. So 1-0 na. Pag nanalo dito si Magnus, 2-0. Pag natabla niya yung third game, 2.5 panalo na siya.
Okay, that doesn't work.
Yeah, maybe A4.
Okay, yeah, my point is like if black takes f1, you take and you check. The king's going to run to e2 and we're getting out.
But he made a mistake.
Oh, I don't know. Queen h1 looks scary. Oh, no, maybe. Yeah, you go to e4.
He's gone with Harry the H-pawn, and uncharacteristically turns out to be a bad move.
What?
Uncharacteristically of Harry.
The computer's just gone haywire. How can h4 ever be a bad move? Well, there's got to be some nasty tactics there, isn't there? I mean, the first thought I was thinking is that you can take the rook and just go for checkmate, but maybe maybe there's something stronger.
Well,
I mean,
Magnus has that look of like, wait a second.
Yeah, he's seen something.
There has
He
to be
smells it.
something here,
He
right?
smells it.
but can't you just take the rook, bring the other one down, put the queen in the corner? Is there something wrong with that?
Straight for it. Simon.
Just threaten checkmate. Yeah, I mean that would be. You should always look for the most forceful
Delikado
moves,
si
right?
Wesley,
And you should
pare.
always look for the captures, and you should also look at ways you can create threats. And
Yeah, so you just take and then
just bring
queen
everything
h1 and rook c1.
simple. Threaten queen d1, checkmate in the final.
What's
position.
funny in the end of that line is that the rook and the queen guard all White's counterplay. There's no queen a8 or queen c8.
So there might be something else because the computer doesn't like this, but I would be scared here, definitely, if I was white.
Check this out. I've cheated. I would have resigned here as a player, but I've cheated and checked the computer. Apparently, white just steps forward and starts running.
So calm, so calm.
No way.
Oh, my words. How can you do that? I mean, that is computer chess, isn't it?
David, look at what Magnus has played.
He didn't play the best move. It's a good move, we should mention. I think this showed up as one of the top moves. But yeah, just to highlight here, Magnus could have won on the spot. I think the idea was actually just this check on h5. I think this would have been a really nasty blow. And if you're, for example, forced to push your pawn, this white king now is pretty much trapped. And any check on the second rank, I'm not sure how you get there. Maybe you go back and threaten checkmate. This looks like it would have been decisive. But Magnus not going for the brute force approach, instead just shuffling his king.
Delikado na si Maano, pare.
Just preempting any checks from the white queen. He's just waiting. But yeah, maybe missed a small opportunity.
I like that move, though, because, again, he didn't see this check and then queen h5 check. But this
Tawagan
is
niyo sa ano,
way
messenger
more,
si
right? You
Magnus,
avoid
pare,
your
guluhin niyo.
opponent's checking chances, right? You're really putting Wesley so in a tough spot, by the way.
Tawagan
with
si
a minute and
Magnus.
20 seconds left, because now how do you deal with the threats, right? And we see he couldn't do it accurately. He plays queen a4, which helps Black's advantage increase a little bit.
And now we see the evaluation from the engine. There's only one winning move. Everything is actually almost level according to the computer there.
Critical moment for Magnus Carlsen here. He has to find the rook trade, the only move, and the follow-up. That's the most important thing. If he doesn't find the follow-up, he might choose an alternative, and that would just destroy his entire advantage in the position. He's touching the 2-minute mark. David, do you see the finishing line after the rook trade?
I don't see it yet. Magnus doesn't see it yet. For sure, the best move, okay, he's played it. I was going to say the best move is also the most natural move, but you called it, Tanya. The follow-up is the key. Often players don't blunder because of the first move. It's always the final follow-up. And still winning position here. Is it a check with that black queen? Do you dive in now? Maybe it's more effective now with white's queen, unable to check the black king. He does dive in. Your idea, Simon.
Angat
This
ng pawn.
is a simple way, isn't it? I mean, because the white king just looks, you know, even if white can defend this somehow, which I don't think he can now, you've got two major pieces, big pieces, the biggest pieces, attacking a naked king. And it's not good to be a naked king. You can get arrested, you can get in trouble.
Well,
just
you
put
can't
your
get
clothes
arrested if
back
you're
on,
a
you know?
king. You get
I
stories
suppose-
written about you. The emperor's
Yeah, I suppose
has
so.
no clothes and that kind of thing.
I don't think Prince Charles, well, not Prince, King Charles.
Puno yung router.
No, but yeah, it's just too exposed, isn't it? This king, I feel, and you're going to have to. Maybe, can you play this e4 move again? He doesn't play it. He's
Plays
trying to
queen
bring his
b3.
pieces back, but
Kaya pa ni Wesley at pare.
I still don't see the mate, Simon. And one of the funny things about this is the queen and knight are really pesky. And I just want to highlight that while e4 maybe didn't work there, if black messes up just one move, that white king is going to run into the middle of the board, and he already has a defender waiting for him. The knight is so pesky when it comes to eliminating the opponent's check. So this is an eval bar for Magnus to take, but I feel like the position is more complex than that does credit, right? I feel like this is a little bit harder.
Magnus,
for
dito
Magnus to
malagay yung
convert
queen mo.
than
Pakain
for
mo na lang.
Final
Bastos
knockout
ka
block.
naman
Like,
eh.
I don't have an engine in front of me. Like, where's Black's win?
and you've only got 1 minute 30, even if you're Magnus Carlsen, to find the knockout blow here. I agree. It's not that simple. I mean, you've got many moves which you have.
Dito,
This is
check.
why calculation
Kasi
is so
pupunta dito.
important. This is why you
Basic lang
train
yan, pare.
your
Tignan nyo
puzzle
itong
ups.
gagawin
This is
ko,
why
ah.
you train your puzzles so you can
Pagkapunta
work
niya
these
dyan,
things out,
check mo ulit dito.
quickly, 'cause
Bababa siya
you do
ulit.
check with the rook, and you,
Yan,
I think
yan,
this is the
tama
right
yan.
way of doing it because you force the king into a more exposed situation. Now I'm thinking, do you bring the queen over? But you have to calculate this, right, David? I mean, okay, wow.
By the way, he
Wow.
did the f7 pawn,
Oh, but-
but it would be mate if you go for it. We can show that if we want, because it's queen
Atras
c1
mo lang,
first,
pare.
and then queen
Don't think
d1.
so
You have to
much.
keep the king in the cage.
Ito pare,
Is
oh.
that just the end?
Queen c1 and
Might
queen
be.
d1.
Is that literally just as simple as that? Rook b1 and there's no move.
Oh wait, that was it. Because
Yeah,
you
that
can't
was
play.
it.
I didn't realize you can't play queen c2 because
I
queen
just-
e1's mate.
I think it's just as simple as that.
And your
There's
queen's
nothing.
nothing.
Wesley's shaking his head. That's
And that's it.
Gonna resign.
And if Magnus wins this, he takes a 2-point lead. He'll need a draw to become champion of the Aimchess Rapid. And it looks like the only good move that Wesley has here is
Dito.
hit the button.
Just resign. I think he has to resign, and it's just the Magnus show today, isn't it? I
7
mean,
seconds.
Would you
6.
fight on? Would you give up
Dito,
the queen
pare.
for the rook and try and set up a fortress with the king, knight, and pawns?
It's
he's
mate
gonna
in
allow mate.
one.
He's gonna allow mate.
And that's it. Wow. Magnus Carlsen with the
Wala,
black
tutulog
pieces
na to, par.
delivers checkmate and takes his
Wesley.
second win. And there he is. What a performance he's had today in his grand
Saan siya
final.
nagkamali, pare?
This guy
Tingnan
is
natin kung saan siya
unstoppable.
nagkamali, ah.